Hello, leaders of the world. Welcome to Spread Love in Organizations, a podcast for purpose-driven healthcare leaders striving to make life better around the world by leading their teams with genuine care, servant leadership, and love. This episode is very special. In partnership with ESCP Business School, I'll be giving the mic to students, our leaders of tomorrow, to discuss with incredible healthcare executives about their journeys and leadership beliefs.
Hi everyone, we are Rita and Mohamed, two students at ESCP Business School in Paris, and we are delighted to be here today and welcome Jean-François Brochard, General Manager of Roche France and Director and Chairman of the LEEM, which is a French organization on pharmaceutical companies. With over 25 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry, Jean-François held various leadership positions in both developed and emerging markets in Europe, North America, and Asia. Before joining Roche France in 2018, he was the president of GSK France. He is also the director and chairman of the Growth, Regulation and Conventional Policy Commission at the LEEM. And in this podcast, we will discuss his career, leadership, and the future of the pharmaceutical industry in France and worldwide. So, Jean-François, thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome, Mohamed. This is really a pleasure to share some of hopefully the insights and experience that can benefit others.
Can you please tell us first a little about the major steps in your career path and what marked you the most before you arrived at your current position?
Well, thanks for the question about the career path. I think there's always a lot of fantasy about career paths. So you asked me a very direct question, Mohamed, about what were the key steps. I think I must say that I've been very, very lucky. I think my first job was actually in Mexico, and I was thrown out of my native country. I had to learn a language. I had to learn a different culture, and I think this has been one of the biggest opportunity in opening my eyes and expanding my horizons. Reaching in this. At the time it was like 21 million people living in Mexico, and you had to make new friends and you had to learn the language, and that was just I was 24 at that time, and that was just fantastic. So I think there's a bit of luck, and then I think I grew a passion for international career, and I had the chance to work in many different continents and countries, in the US, in the Far East, in the Philippines, and then later in Europe, in Belgium and Italy for a long time. So I think one of the key things is really the chance that I had was really to have access to those opportunities. I created some, but most of those opportunities were offered to me, and I think one thing that I did is I did not overthink those opportunities. I just jumped on them. Maybe I was also I didn't have a family at a younger age, and it's probably easier to move from the US to the Philippines and back and forth. But so I really think that you need to go and then learn and grow. So that's one thing. I think the international dimension would be my first answer. The second thing is I was also very lucky to have a few very inspiring leaders, very inspiring mentors that were both, I think, integrating what we would call in French exigence, which means demanding, but in a positive way, and then also a lot of support. So they were integrating both those things, being very supportive and being very demanding, and they were also giving me a lot of trust. At least I think of two of them, which were amazing in both as role models. The way I would pick up a lot of their good habits and the things that I really liked about them, the way they were visionary about the business, the way they were supportive with the teams. And I think, having great mentors is a good thing. Up to a certain level, actually, where I think that if in your career you don't feel you have a strong mentors around you, it's worth asking the question, should I look for something different? And actually, I had to ask myself this question a couple of times in my career. And one of the learnings, I eventually did move to another job. But I think I could have moved earlier. I don't think there's any experience which is worth, I would say, bearing, a bad boss. So, we need good mentors. And sometimes, they're not your bosses, they're other people, but you need to have inspiring surrounding people if you want to go. So, those are the two things. And then, keep an open mind on things. When you're thrown out in the Philippines at 20, plus something, and you don't know anything about being a general manager, but you're asked to be one. Don't try to pretend. Just at least show that you're eager to learn, that you work hard, and you're willing to also show some candor in your relationships, and eventually you manage through the content of the roles. And you find your ways, with your uniqueness. This is what happened to me in the Philippines, and that was always great experiences. So I think those two things are the most important: international and great mentors. There's probably much more things to it, especially the I think what I kept about all those years outside of my native country is really the relationships that I built, and that's one, and marvelous people. And when they were not marvelous, I try either to adapt or change. And I think the other thing is also the chance to get to know another culture. And I think it makes you realize, how lucky you are, at least in my native country, where you have free schools, free health, and when you realize that people either in the Philippines or Mexico don't have any of this and must fight very hard to get decent health or decent education, you realize how lucky we are in some of our Western countries, and this gives probably more value to those great things. And I think it makes also me more prone to actually make sure that we preserve those extraordinary things we have in a country like France, like free education and free health.
So, have you always wanted to be a leader? And do you think this is something that is innate or that can be built from scratch?
Once again, thanks, Mohammed, for the very insightful question about either born or made leadership. I think it's a bit of both, actually. I think we need to oppose both of those visions. You asked me the question directly, so I'm going to answer you directly. I don't know if I always wanted to be a leader, but at some point I realized that at least trying to be one, trying to be effective, and bring people along. So this is what leadership is about. Not against, but with them, is something that actually got me a lot of satisfaction, and I felt good about bringing people along and having them on board on projects. So you have to vibrate, if you want, to the signals of good leadership, of at least effective leadership. If you don't vibrate, if you're more interested in tasks or I don't know, working on Excel sheets or doing whatever, I think it's okay. It's not like leadership is more important than being an expert, and sometimes you don't have to oppose those two things. But I think yes, you have to feel leadership is kind of right for you. And both in difficult times, because obviously sometimes it hurts when you feel you're not effective as a leader. You missed a checkout with one of your colleague. You thought that the intervention you just made with your team actually was kind of not very engaging, and this happens. So you both need to be stimulated by the things you want to improve, but also satisfied when you see signals, when you capture signals that whatever you're doing is actually engaging people, and they either get more excited about their role, or they want to engage more. So you have to kind of like it. I think that this would be the first thing. The second thing, the second part of your question about is it innate or is it something you can actually work on it? As I said, let's not oppose those two things. I think if you're wired kind of to be a leader, to vibrate to the good signals of leadership, I think it facilitates things. But then I think there's a lot of things you can work. giving you an example, maybe there's something I was not doing very consistently at the beginning of my career. I was not, at least sending strong signals that I was wanting, feedback, including, I would say, challenging feedback. So I thought I had it whole, and I didn't need anyone to tell me, what to improve. And obviously this was a mistake, because you need the looks of others, and you can't just see things through your own lens. And I think with the time, I just opened to the idea that maybe people have a lot to tell me and a lot to teach me, actually. So this is one thing. You need to be open to this. And then also, I think you may do this in a very structured way, and most of the companies, they provide you most of the tools, the feedback, the 360s, and some very structured models that helps you, maybe grab some realities, and also all the theory behind. Then you need to put this into practice. But so I think once again, you need to look at those tools and those opportunities with a very open mind. There's nothing to lose, actually, and maybe sometimes it will hurt a little bit, because some of the feedback say, well, you're not very inspiring in this instance, or what you said did not really, I don't know, help me in my job, or I think you can give me more support. But there's nothing you can lose. You just, the only thing you can do is getting better at being a leader, receiving this feedback. And I think probably, I would say, what differentiates improving leaders and playing leaders is precisely this ability to listen to feedback and be open to feedback, but not only to hear, but actually to act and leverage this feedback as something you can actually change. So I received a lot of feedback in my career. And I think I due to this feedback, I evolved also from I would say, self-centered leader is maybe not, the exact way I would put it, but that's what comes to my mind. At least, kind of self-centered to something which looks more like, I would say, team conscious and maybe collective centered leadership along those years. And the way I grew this, I would say, collective leadership is really through listening to feedback and then reasoning and exchanging with colleagues, and also looking at leaders that were doing this very well, mentors. Back to the mentor question. So to your question, Mohammed, I think this is really about both, and I think there's always an improvement margin, whatever the level you start from, there's always, but you need to enjoy it. You need to love coming to a room with 200 people and say, I'm gonna try to inspire them. I'm going to try to share something with them which actually will help them to actually thrive. If you don't like this, well, it's going to be much harder. But there are, I think, many types of leadership too, and there may be less, I don't know, inspiring leadership, more intellectual ones, I don't know. But I think you need to like it, and you need to be open to progress. Those are the two concepts I would keep.
Moving forward to question number 3. How to maintain the commitment and motivation of your team in a sector where obtaining result and progress is a very long and uncertain process, specifically in moments of transformation or reinvention of the company?
Thank you, Rita, for if I had the answer, I think I would be a Nobel Prize for leadership. I don't think this exists, but we may want to invent this. The truth is, I don't know if there's a recipe for this. Maintaining engagement, I think there's a few I would say elements that would definitely help this, at least in my experience. The first one is, I think you need to keep true to the vision, if you want, the inspiring elements. And honestly, there can't be 25 of them, or there need to be a few. When you do a transformation, I think you need to be able to articulate the why of your transformation, or the why you need to embark on a kind of a difficult journey in a very concise and simple way. What are the 2, 3, 4 elements that you really want to change. And to give you a practical example, when we had a very deep transformation within Roche a few years ago, and it was really about rewiring the company from top to bottom, if you want. And there was actually 4 principles that we wanted to materialize in the future that were not materialized now. So we wanted to have a more engaging partnership-like relationships with our customers. We wanted to have a more fluid way of allocating resources in the company. We wanted to leverage digital more effectively. And 4, we wanted to start with the need in the market, the need from our customers. So you see 4 elements, not 25, just 4 of them. It's maybe already too much. And we kept on, like 4, if you want, North Stars that would help us navigate through it. And I remember even in difficult times, like the teams were feeling a little bit, this is too much and there's a lot of change we need to go through. And also, workers' council relationships where people are saying, oh, that's a lot of layoffs for, this, we were constantly, I was able to constantly remind the why we are doing things. So this is, one element is really, let's remind us why we do things. And if you can't answer the question why, I think this will demotivate your teams, because they say, what, and the good thing about being clear about the why, people can also position themselves from the beginning about, do I want to embark in this or not? And we had a few people, not few, but some that actually said at the beginning, you know what, we'd rather work in a traditional way so we can actually leave the company. And I was absolutely all right. And I think at least, engaging with why helps you, not only, while you are transforming and when, sometimes the weather is a bit rough, but also at the beginning in having people, asking the key questions. Are you up to this? That's kind of the initial contract. So that's one thing. Then the other elements, I think it's about, how would I would call it proximity. It's being close to topics. It's being close to problems. It's being close to people. More importantly, it's about being there, especially when the times are rough, because people will want to ask you a few questions. They will want to have a look at you, whether they feel you are still engaged. Even because in those transformations there are always rough times, always. And I think and sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, I don't really have the answer, but I'm here. I'm here to support, and we'll find a solution together. And you always do eventually. So I think it's really about getting this very close to people and topics to understand. And although also there's one thing, just to give you an example, we did one thing with the leadership team in the French affiliate of Roche, where we had this. We called it, if you want, the changing rooms. So it's like, when you do collective sports, whatever this is, usually you have a moments in the changing room where you can tell things in a very open heart. And, so we didn't have any, obviously, agenda for those moments. They lasted about half an hour from time to time. And we were, sitting in a very, comfortable sofas, and we were throwing, the things that would affect us. And amazing things actually emerged, because at some point we realized that one of our colleagues were actually bearing most of the weight of the pain in the change. And, it allowed, the team to redistribute a little bit this pain and actually support our colleague, just because, we had a safe space. There's this changing room space where you could actually, talk with an open heart. So those are the, little tricks that helped maintain the team very much engaged. But I think what eventually keeps the team engaged in times of transformation and overall is the feeling that they're very useful. As long as you can set up a context and an environment for people, including you, where they feel they are useful, they will thrive. And obviously, you need to have more than decent compensation, incentive systems, and all those things are useful. But I think the most impactful one is really, making sure that you ask them things where they feel they're useful for others, useful for the mission, and useful for themselves in terms of personal development. When you go through a transformation, you learn a lot about your own leadership. You learn a lot about, and this really feeds the self-confidence and the degree of engagement of the team. So those are the themes. Maybe I'm not super structured here in my answer, but those are the key things. The why, the proximity, and feeling useful. There's probably many other things. I'm sure there are super theorists of this that wrote full books about it. But as a spontaneous answer, this is what I would say, Rita.
Yes. Thank you for sharing this, and we'll move forward for a question about what are for you the biggest challenge of today, both in leadership and in the pharmaceutical industry, and how do we overcome them?
Mm-hmm. I'll start with the easy one, which is the challenge, in the industry, and then I'll go back to, I would say, challenges in my leadership, if you want. I think the biggest challenge, working in the industry is really the challenge of true and sincere partnership with our stakeholders. And this is maybe more true in some markets. It's likely to be the case in France. I've lived in other markets. In Belgium, it's a bit different, for example. It's easier to set up, sincere partnerships, but in some markets it's more difficult. So I think there's this thing about we have an image of an industry that makes a lot of money. To some extent, it's true, but we are delivering also huge amounts of values to patient journeys across, the world. So I think it's about how can we find, the means to establish, how can we leverage our leadership externally to actually, help our stakeholders believe in co-writing things together for improving health in one particular country. And sometimes we're very much considered as a supplier, if you want. So the lowest the cost, the better for them. And it's truly hard to make them, understand that this is much more nuanced and systemic and holistic than they think. And the pharma industry, is also a promoter of a healthy, knowledge economy. It's about, also working with the academic centers across the world and developing knowledge. And this is huge as a value, and they don't necessarily recognize, those things. So it's really about establishing this. How do you do this from a leadership point of view? Once again, you start with the why. You try to, be sincere. And you also need to be clear about, yes, we also have some economic expectations. Investing in research is a huge investment. And, we can't have the US market paying for, the world innovations, if you want, which is kind of the case today. Maybe 2/3 of the economic proceeds of a new drug is coming from the US, at least in the last 15 years. So, we need to have, to help our stakeholders realize that paying the lowest price, is not sustainable. If you want to continue to have this innovations, therapeutic innovations and diagnostics innovations, they need to evolve. So this is, as far as the external, the pharma industry is concerned, I think this is the challenge. And I think one of the ways to resolve those challenges is to make sure also, and Mohamed made reference to some of the responsibilities I have in National Pharma Association, is also trying to align our colleagues in different many other companies to the same kind of approach about being a partner to the system. And most of them are and they think alike, but it's about aligning this. Now it's not just one company that can do it. It's a whole industry that can start moving and also adapting their commercial models, adapting their partnership models, if you want. So that this becomes possible. But as long as our R&D organizations will continue to produce amazing, therapeutic innovations. I think we'll have, the necessary conditions to actually, make this partnership work in the future. Now, you also asked me, Rita, about my personal challenges in leadership, and I started by saying that I welcome feedback and challenge. So, I hope I have a good answer to this one. I think the key challenge or the key things I would like to continue to improve is really about this being a systemic leader. And by systemic leader, it's not about a leader that produces performance or a leader that produces engagement. It's really about a leader that produces systemic value. Value for the company you work for, value for the people you work with, value for the system, the health system you work in, and value for the political world that surrounds you. What I said earlier about the knowledge economy. So So it's not only about being focused on your team and making sure that they thrive, they are engaging, they are motivated, but it's about also linking this with the external world and your corporation, because you could feel that you are autonomous in an affiliate, and to some degree you are, but you have to integrate those dimensions, the society, your affiliate if you want, and the corporate. And I think it's about finding ways to be effective and navigate through all of this. Sometimes it's easy because everything is aligned. The interest of your system is the one of your affiliate and the one of your corporate, and you kind of it's like in sailing when your wind is coming from the side. That's kind of easy sailing. And sometimes corporate and the affiliate and the local decision makers are not aligned, and you need to find ways to establish the partnership. Also say clearly the things that needs to be improved, the things you're willing to put on the table, and the things that you are demanding that they improve. So most of my time is actually more on this kind of situations where you have to manage through a bit of conflicting priorities here or there. But this is what also makes, I think, our role as leaders quite interesting. So I think this is, I would say one of the key challenges, making sure that what you do, works systemically and not just, in your team, or you don't just pride yourself because you inspire a bit your people, and that's okay. So, and you need to do, I think you need to integrate. I'm not sure I like the word balance, but it's more integrating those things. It's making them coherent one and another. So this is what I think if I can get much better at this, I would be very happy.
It's very clear, thank you. So now I would like to go to another section. We will give you one word and want to get your reaction about leadership.
About leadership, I think this is really what makes miracle possible. I think this ability to bring larger group of people, do something which is meaningful for another group of people, by leading them, by giving them the vision, by providing them the tools, by providing them the environment and the context. This is just great. You can achieve amazing things. We can solve huge problems, like health problems, like people dealing with difficult lives, and you can just by this ability to lead different groups of people actually make this happen. But leadership is never, I think eventually it's always about one individual if you want, but it's always so interdependent. So we are so connected with the others that attributing the quality of leadership to one individual, I think, is a mistake. And it's really about working as a network, and we are so much interdependent. One of the things, I know you asked me one word and I'm making a long speech here, a long answer here, but I think there's a traditional leadership journey, I think, is less and less about myself and more about ourselves. I think this is a natural direction. I think I see many other leaders that are sharing the same kind of experience. It's less about yourself; it's more about the system, and we're trying to improve for others.
Yes. About innovation.
Innovation. I think it's both a innovation is both a blessing and a curse. It could achieve amazing things, like look at what we're doing in health, bringing therapeutic innovations that are fundamentally making people live longer, live in better conditions. Sometimes actually guarish from some of the disease they suffer. Look at the promises of gene therapy is massive. So it's both amazingly potent, but at the same time, it's if you don't anticipate some of the consequences of it, it's becoming a bit of a curse. And look at we can have a long debate about global warming, and but the scientific evidence is there. And some of the reasons why we are in this situation, and the destruction of complete natural ecosystems, is because of innovation too. So I think innovation without wisdom, I think, brings chaos. And I really think that we need to think very thoroughly, especially companies like us that put innovation to the forefront of our mission, making sure we understand the consequences, and how can we actually continue to innovate without paying such a high price on global systems. And I'm thinking about global warming as one. I think the reduction in biodiversity is one other, and I think we have a responsibility. We can't just say we try to bring innovation at any cost. So once again, to make a more concise answer about innovation, it's really use wisdom so that it does not become a curse, but you keep the blessing.
So about general management.
But general management,
yes.
I think we need general manager. I'm going to be a bit promoting here, but I think this is, and whatever it is, whether it's a plant, whether it's an affiliate, whatever it is, you need the general manager. You need kind of I believe in incarnated leadership. So it's about people. So I'm fine. Yes, when I'm walking into the office in Paris, it's okay. They see me as yes, he's our leader, and hopefully I'm up to that expectation. And some days I am, some days I'm less. That's okay. But I think it's okay. You have to kind of be at ease with the idea that people will look at you and say, you have a responsibility to kind of help us, look at what's right, what's the right direction, what's the right mission, what's the right vision. It's okay. So you need this, and it needs to be incarnated. It can't be something that, I don't know, an email you send through whatever channel or on an app, and suddenly you become a leader. I think it's incarnated. People need to see you. You need to be able to articulate this. Drinking a coffee with one person, or you need to articulate this in front of 1,000 people, telling them the same story. So general manager is absolutely useful to companies, and it needs to be incarnated.
Yes, and finally about the spread love in organizations.
Spreading love into organization, that's an interesting one. I think there would be many meanings to the word love, but I think there's something that has to do. The Greeks had actually three names for this, which I think is interesting. We only have one in English, only have one in French, and in many languages we only have one. I don't know about many Far East languages, but the point is that there's different ways of. So I think here we are dealing about, I think the essence of love is this ability to wish well for others without necessarily being recognized or being incentivized for it. This is what love is all about. There's something around it's okay to, and I think if we can spread that kind of attitude, if you want, that kind of leadership, that as long as we do well, even though sometimes we are not recognized, that's okay. If companies, if systems can actually spread this kind of love, this is fantastic. At the same time, Rita, I think we shouldn't be also thinking that you can manage the way you love your family, for example, is one thing, and companies can't, or I think it would be a mistake to manage a company in the way you deal with your family. So it doesn't mean you don't need to be generous, you don't need to be supportive, you don't need to be challenging, but I think it's different orders of love, if you want. So my answer would be spread the love that actually do good for people, and don't expect too much say return or recognition on it. So this is what I would say about spreading love.
Any final words of wisdom for aspiring leaders in the pharmaceutical industry?
Yeah, maybe it's really around think system, think partnership. This is not about growing revenues only. This is really about making sure that what we do has a systemic impact and a positive one on society. So rethinking also the way we engage with our stakeholders in a way that we improve patients' life, but we also improve systems, and we are conscious about some of the constraints that our health systems or our political system have, and we can't be blind to this. So I think it's if I had one advice, or maybe an invitation more than an advice, it's about really think systemically, open your guts, your hearts, your brains to something that is in partnership in nature. Find the sweet spot about not only win yourself, but make sure that the system also wins, because otherwise it's going to be unbalanced, and it's going to lead to either you having a bad reputation, and this is what happened to the pharma industry, to be honest. And let's make sure that we deal with another era here, about more trusted partner era, rather than just being predators of resources in their systems.
Thank you so much, Jean-François, again for your time and such inspiring discussion.
Well, thank you, Rita, Mohamed, this and Naji for the short introduction, and thanks for also sharing the recording of this. Maybe I can use it somehow, and I'll make sure that on whatever media it's going to be, I'm going to like it and share it with all my friends and colleagues.
Thank you so much, Jean-François. It has been a great pleasure to hear you, and a real honor to host you here, and definitely will help a large audience that we have. So thank you all for listening to Spread Love in Organizations podcast. We have such an important responsibility as leaders of today to plant the seeds for the leaders of tomorrow. Connect with us on SpreadLoveIO.com and subscribe to your favorite podcast platform. Most importantly, spread love in your organizations and spread the word around you to inspire others and amplify this movement our world so desperately needs.